Hi, I'm David Preston. And today, well, we've had one of those days where you've gone in and you've had a busy day in the office and you go, God, I gotta come home and I gotta cook dinner. You know, you don't want dinner to be boring. You want it to be interesting. But you're just going to grab the few things you have and you're going to cook some dinner. Tonight, we're going to cook dinner after work, like a bastard. The great American debate, what's for dinner? Sometimes it takes a lot of thought for you saying, how would a bastard make that? Now, I'm not saying I'm a bastard, but when I cook like one, I kind of think about what are the things I have around the house and I can put together. And tonight we're just going to throw a few things we found together in the house and just put them together. We have some steak I found in there and a pork chop we're going to put together. Got these lovely tomatoes and peppers right here, some garlic. We're going to put it together, make a little fry, and see what happens. So the first thing I want to do is start to flavor my pan, and I'm going to smash my garlic here and chop up an onion. I think that how we think this is so overwhelming. What can I make? Because the thought of having to go out and shop for dinner is really ridiculous. But I think if you look around your house, you're going to find there are things that, well, you probably should have eaten a couple weeks ago. Put them together now. It's going to work. So I'm going to do that, and while I'm doing this, I'm going to turn on my burner here. Heat this up a little bit before I put the oil on. I'm going to heat the pan up before I put the oil on. Finish chopping this up. I have 3 cloves of garlic here that I already peeled. I'm going to smash that. Just chop it up, and this is really going to be the flavor base of what we're going to do, hopefully, because we really don't know what we're going to do. And that's kind of the fun thing about throwing these things together is I got some ingredients. I think they're going to work. So heated that up a little bit. I'm going to pour a little bit of the olive oil in here. Make sure your heat is on a medium to low. I just want to spread the oil out just a little bit. Get this stuff ready to go in as soon as the oil heats up. Now I got myself a pretty thick pork chop here. So I had frozen. It's nice to have some food that's frozen because you can thaw it out quickly in your microwave and have a nice healthy meal. So I'm going to trim some of the fat here off both the steak. This is a sirloin, that just a little piece of a sirloin we had before, and get the fat off of it. So pull off as much as you can, then you can cut the rest of it off. One thing, it's a Friday night. Take your time. Have a glass of wine, maybe 2. Don't get so worked up about how dinner's going to be. So the oil's heated up a little bit. I'm going to move this into the pan. And note the pan's not too hot because it's not flaring up, and that means it's probably the right temperature because I know there's some heat there because I can feel that heat. Enjoy your wine. Enjoy cooking. If you're cooking for yourself, cooking for a date, cooking for a whole family, just kind of enjoy the process. I'm going to cut up my steak here, make it bite-sized. And that's the important thing if you make a fry-up like this, that you really got to make sure that the meat you have is not in a world that people are going to cut it. So just kind of small pieces. Make sure you miss your fingers while you're cutting, because the idea of finger food isn't a bad thing on a Friday night, but sometimes when it's your finger, it's not as tasty. So we're chopping the steak up, looking at the onions go there, and we're flavoring the oil a little bit. We're flavoring the pan and just trying to cook these things down, keeping it at a low heat. So we got our steak there done. Cut a little more of the fat off the pork chop. Now this is a thick pork chop. I'm going to actually split the pork chop first. And then start the cutting process. So I can cut across. Make sure your knife is nice and sharp for safety reasons, if nothing else, because We hate it when we have to put the safety messages in. I know sometimes it's fun, but safety first here in the kitchen. Boo safety. So we're going to continue to cut the meat, and we're kind of thinking of how are we going to season this meat to make it taste good. I pulled out a few ingredients here that I thought I might be using. Probably some garlic, pepper, a little paprika, maybe some green stuff. Your basils or your thymes or something. So we're going to take this on your cutting board here. Put a lot of garlic pepper on it, so I think that's my main ingredient. Some paprika, a little basil, kind of mixes up the taste a bit. Going to mix these guys up. Now, as I'm looking at my onions, I'm going to turn that heat down because you don't want to burn the garlic ever. And those are starting to get translucent there. Take a green pepper and put that in before the steak. It's easy to cut your green pepper. Just cut it, clean it, strip it. Oh, and that smells good. That's really going to be a nice addition to the meal. Now these green peppers, fresh from my mom's garden. Still good after sitting here for a while because you can preserve these things. You can freeze them, keep them in a cool place. You make your stuff last, and you're trying to think of how do you make this meal without going shopping, because the last thing you want to do on a Friday is go, I gotta go grocery shopping. It's cold out, unless you're watching this during the summer repeat season, of course. But it's cold outside. You go, I don't want to go outside. So you don't have to. You can just look in your refrigerator, look down in your pantry, and find something that is nice and edible and throwing this together. These are cooking up nice, and look at the way this looks. I mean, that's really beautiful. It needs a little something, doesn't it? Put a little hot pepper in there. I got these little peppers I found at the farmer's market this past fall, and these are great. I'm just going to break a couple of these up and throw them in there. And this is the right time to be doing it. So I'm going to cut off their stems, and this time you can just try and break it up, kind of like, I don't even know what it's like, because nothing else breaks up like that. Sometimes breaking up is hard to do, not with these peppers, because this is working pretty good. So got all this stuff coming together. Getting the flavors mixed together. And now I take the meat. Put that in the middle. Get this to start to absorb the flavors. Making sure you got everything. If you got something too big, now's probably the better time to cut it than later. But when you serve this, you're going to serve it with a knife anyhow, but try to keep them bite-sized. It's better for your guests. Especially on a Friday. You don't feel like cooking? Hard enough to cook, let alone eat. So we'll make that work for you. Let this go here. A couple other ingredients we're going to put in. I got some corn. Another thing about saving this corn is over a year old. Fresh corn I picked up, and I bagged it myself. I froze it, and it's here. It smells as fresh as the day I got it. Well over a year ago. So the corn's going to go in there. I got a tomato I'm going to put in there, but we're going to let this meat just cook down just a little bit. Smelling good, and it's coming up very nicely with the peppers and the garlic really flavoring it. So we're going to let this cook a little bit, and then we're going to be right back. And we're back. We've let the meat cook for about another 5 minutes or so. As we're skilling this up, we've turned up the heat just a little bit because we want to almost fry the corn. And as a matter of fact, we're going to add a little more oil to the middle here, just a little bit to the middle of the pan away from the food, and let that heat up. just so I can drop the corn. Now the corn is going to do a couple things. It's going to add a little moisture to the meal, which is good. The oil is heating up very nicely, but it's going to add just a little sweetness, which I think this needs. Put tomatoes in. Grab just a little bit of the wine we're drinking, just to give it a little flavor. And we're going to let this simmer down. Pretty simple meal. It's taken, 10 minutes to get to this point, and I can tell you it tastes pretty darn good. We'll be back after we're back. We covered it up while we were letting it cook just a bit. And look at that, how that's coming up. Nice. It's kind of juicy. So that little cooking needs to happen on some of the meat we can see. I want to add a little salt, just a little sea salt here. A little pepper. And what I like about this meal is it is easy. It's using food that's just laying around the house, and it's good. A little taste here. Damn good is what it is. So, mix this up. I'm going to let it cover up for just a little bit. Let it braise for like another 5 minutes or so. You're going to have yourself some dinner. Simple as that. That's cooking like a bastard. We'll be right back. And we're back. It's been cooking for another 5 minutes or so. This has been a completely simple meal. And look how gorgeous this is with the different colors and the different flavors. I'm going to taste this now. I've cut a couple pieces of bread here. And this is, again, a very simple meal and a good meal. And it's good for you. A lot of different flavors in there. A lot of different nutrients. That's some good grub here. An easy meal. It's Friday. It's tasty. You say, hey, I did something. Good way to start out your weekend here. Just like watching Cook Like a Bastard. I'm David Preston. Until next time, don't remember, you can just cook, or you can cook like a bastard.
David TV.